Welcome to the second episode of Somnette's Insomnia interview series. I'm your host, Jenna, co-founder of Somnette, joined by my amazing colleague, Annie Zhu. Today, we're diving into a topic that affects so many, yet often goes unnoticed: how insomnia impacts mental health. Our guest is Seif Elmalawany, a registered psychotherapist qualifying. Seif, it's great to have you with us.
Thank you. Thank you for having me again. We had a great first podcast, and hopefully we continue this trend moving forward. Just as a quick reintroduction for anyone who didn't hear or listen to our first podcast, my name is Seif Elmalawany. I am a registered psychotherapist qualifying. I work with various modalities and clients with various challenges like depression, anxiety, and one of those issues that come up is insomnia. And, again, just to kind of reiterate on the last episode, we're not medical doctors, so don't take any of these discussions that we're having as medical advice. If you need help with insomnia, please visit your family doctor for a in-depth analysis of what's going on with your sleep. Or you can definitely book an appointment with me as well for a proper one-on-one session when it comes to working with insomnia. But yeah, thank you for having me.
Before we dive in, a quick word about our partners at LiveWise. LiveWise is a mental health organization that offers accessible and affordable therapy options for all. From psychotherapy interns to virtual and in-person sessions, they specialize in supporting teenagers with issues like academic stress, social anxiety, and self-esteem. They even offer art psychotherapy for emotional expression. We're thrilled to partner with LiveWise as we explore the powerful connection between insomnia and mental health.
So here's a quick look at what we'll be discussing today. First, we'll explore the impact of insomnia on mental health, touching on how it impacts the academic lifestyle.
Then, we'll talk about how insomnia can affect daily lives through social interaction and some of the subtle signs a person is struggling with insomnia.
We'll also discuss how noise levels, lighting, and room temperatures affect sleep quality, and some tips for improving sleep.
So, let's just kick things off with one of the key questions we're often asked. Insomnia doesn't just affect your mood, it can also affect productivity. How does insomnia typically impact academic or workplace performance?
Yeah, absolutely. This is a great question because insomnia can affect a lot of different parts of our lives. And it can have a huge impact on both our academic and workplace performance for those who are working as well. When you're not getting enough sleep, your cognitive functions, to say stuff like your memory, attention span, and problem solving skills are all affected. To speak about in school settings, for example, this might mean struggling to retain information from lectures or zoning out while studying. At work, it could look like making more mistakes, taking longer to complete tasks, for example, or having difficulty staying engaged in meetings. There is a lot of the emotional toll when you're sleep deprived. Stuff like irritability and stress levels tend to rise in these cases as well, which can also in return affect collaboration and communication. So over time, chronic insomnia can lead to burnout, which is why it's really important to address sleep issues before they start interfering with our daily life and getting to that point of comorbid insomnia. So for sure, it's something that we need to keep an eye on in order to perform, not necessarily at our best, but in a functional way.
That sounds great. On a more personal note, we've heard that untreated insomnia can lead to more than just sleep issues. Could untreated insomnia lead to relationship strain or social isolation too?
Absolutely. I mean, that's a great question. Sleep is deeply connected to emotional regulation, for example. And when someone is dealing with chronic insomnia, which is insomnia over a long period of time, they're more likely to experience mood swings, irritability, and even symptoms of, anxiety and depression. So this can create tension in relationships. So insomnia is indirectly or directly in this way actually affecting relationships, whether it's snapping at your partner over something small or struggling to be present in social interactions. And on a larger scale, people with insomnia often actually withdraw because they don't have the energy for social activities, and they just feel drained most of the time. If someone is constantly exhausted, they may start canceling plans, for example, or avoiding interactions altogether, which can then lead to feelings of isolation and loneliness. And that also, in return, kind of adds to the depression, anxiety, and these type of challenges. So while insomnia is often thought of as just a personal health issue, it really does have a ripple effect on relationships and social well-being, among a variety of other issues as well.
Sometimes it's hard to spot. What are some subtle signs that someone's daily life is being affected by sleep deprivation?
Yeah, I do agree with the idea that it can be a subtle sign that not everyone is aware of. Sometimes people just don't immediately recognize that their sleep deprivation is affecting them because the signs can be subtle at first. One big sign is increased forgetfulness. So things like walking into a room and forgetting why are you there, or missing small details in conversations or tasks. Like these little small things that you forget during your day. Another sign is a shorter fuse. So people might find themselves getting irritated, for example, more easily, or struggling to handle stress that wouldn't normally bother them. Changes in appetite can also be a clue. Sleep deprivation can throw off hunger hormones and leading to either overeating or loss of appetite. And then there is that underlying sense of like fatigue, even after what seems like a full night of sleep. Uh, you just wake up and you just don't feel like doing anything, to 8 hours of sleep, and you wake up not feeling like working out or going to work. um, if someone is for example also is relying on caffeine more than usual, having difficulty focusing, or feeling emotionally off without an obvious reason, sleep quality is definitely something to consider here.
We often talk about creating the perfect sleep environment, but in reality, not everyone has that luxury. How much do things like noise levels, lighting, and room temperature affect sleep quality? And are there any quick adjustments people can make?
Absolutely. Sleep environment is like one of the first things we look at when it comes to how do I improve my overall sleep in general. So environmental factors play a huge role in sleep quality, actually. Our brains, for example, respond to light, temperature, and sound, even when we're not fully conscious. So bright lights, especially blue lights from cell phone and TVs, can trick the brain into thinking it's still daytime, which then suppresses melatonin production, which is our way of really falling asleep. A simple fix is dimming lights in the evening and using warm toned bulbs or blue light blocking filters on devices. So, on your iPhone, for example, there's that option that would take your screen from like a fully colorful, bright screen to this like orangey, yellowish screen. And that's supposed to fight against the blue light effect that the screen does and keeps you awake at night. Um, Temperature is also a big one. In this case, our body temperature naturally drops before sleep, so keeping the room slightly cool, around 18 degrees Celsius, can help in this case as well. As for noise, even if someone thinks they're used to sleeping with background noise, for example, it can still disrupt deeper sleep stages. In this case, earplugs is a good option. White noise machines is a really good option as well. I know a lot of people love to fall asleep to like the noise of the fan, because it just covers almost like a white noise effect for them. So small adjustments like these can make a really big difference in getting more restful sleep overall.
For those who don't have an ideal environment to sleep in, like living in noisy areas or crowded spaces, what are some tips for improving sleep in those less ideal environments?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a good question as well. Not everyone has control over their sleep environment, but there are definitely ways to improve sleep quality overall, even in challenging conditions. If noise is an issue, earplugs or noise canceling headphones can help a lot here. But another trick is using, like we said, the white noise machine or an app that just plays nature sounds, rain, something that would relax you before you go to sleep. These just create a consistent background sound that can mask those noises that's coming up from like outside the room, or in the streets and so on. For lightning, blackout curtains can be a game changer here. But if that's not an option, a sleep mask can work just as well. Something just covers the eyes to kind of get you to sleep in a darker, less light kind of idea. When it comes to crowded or shared spaces, maintaining a consistent bedtime routine can help a lot here. The idea is it signals to the body that it's time to wind down, even if the environment isn't ideal. So using something like, I guess you could say, a combination of the white noise, the relaxing, rainy sounds, maybe something like using calming scents as well, like lavender, or listening to a guided sleep meditation can also help shift the brain into a more relaxed state. And all of these things just combined can make it easier for us to fall asleep no matter the environment we're in.
That sounds great. Thank you so much for being here today, Seif. This has been a fantastic conversation, and I know our listeners are going to walk away with a lot of valuable takeaways on how to improve their sleep and mental health. A big thank you to LiveWise for partnering with us on this episode, and we're excited for what's to come.
To our listeners, if you enjoyed today's episode, make sure to subscribe, share, and stay tuned for our next conversation. Until then, this is Somnette. Sleep well and take care of yourselves.